A ridge of high pressure setting up across the Pacific Northwest, and tons of sunshine is on the way. And Molly's here.
Hi, people who like weather. Hi.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Oh, God.
Oh, bye-bye.
Oh, workers' comp. Okay.
All right, we are about to do a deep dive in your most reliable forecast. Look at the changes we've already been going through and what's happening next. You might have heard there is a big warming trend on the way that's going to bring the heat by the time we get to Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And with that, we are going to be sitting under a broad ridge of high pressure. This high pressure is going to be the driving force that brings us our sunshine and the huge heating trend. So we're going to start things off just by looking outside, making sure no one else is coming in. Okay, so looking outside, we have tons of sunshine. There are some clouds, and when you look over the Cascades, we have a little bit more of that heavier cloud cover, but to be honest, that's the only place we really see a whole lot of clouds. The rest of us, we've already had some clearings, and that means not only do we have the sun shining across the high desert, we can see a lot of shadows in the traffic cameras across Central Oregon. All of these are courtesy of ODOT. And there's just no precipitation, so our roads are dry. Now, it's also been breezy, and we're going to talk about winds here through the next several minutes as well. But when we look to the passes, Government Camp and San Ian Pass, we do have wet roads. Just wet roads, no snow, but that's because of the cloud cover that we've been continuing to get all the way down to about Bachelor, and some of it has been bringing with it a little bit of precipitation. Now, that being said, this is it. Once this wraps up early tomorrow morning, we're done with precipitation through the foreseeable future, even with a weak system that rolls through Sunday, Monday, and really Monday and Tuesday. It's not going to bring any precipitation, just some in and out clouds with a dip in temperature. So let's look at satellite and radar. Across the state, we do have some clouds, and even when we look a little closer at the Cascades, there's still not much in the way of precipitation, just seeing a few sprinkles around Detroit Lake and a little further to the east. Now, going forward through the next couple of days, this is going to become a very clear map. Not much in the way of cloud cover, no precipitation in sight. We just have some of that lingering over the high desert right now. And looking forward at a glance through Wednesday, we do start off with some clouds. Even some pockets of fog are going to be possible. Then that clears. We are sitting under sunshine. And through the day, Wednesday, temperatures top out in the mid to upper 60s with some 70s expected. Now, a quick look at the bigger picture across the Pacific Northwest. We're still slightly under the influence of this low, and this low has started to redevelop over the Rockies. And on the other side of the Rockies, there is a risk of some severe weather. In fact, there's a tornado watch through the Dakotas going down even further to the south. And it looks like it ends around Nebraska. And so there's severe weather out there. But here in Central Oregon, we just have some low-level clouds on the other side of the Cascades. Here, on the high desert, we have tons of sunshine, and a little bit of that cloud cover is impacting the Cascades, including our passes, including both Bachelor and Hoodoo in those areas. And when we look at the bigger picture, there's a broad ridge of high pressure out over the Pacific Ocean. This high pressure is going to be the driving force to our weather pattern through the next several days. And at the moment, it's just starting to edge into the PNW. And what's going to happen is when you look to the north of this high pressure, you see all this activity coming out from way out over the Pacific Ocean. I'm trying to move the camera over. There we go. From way out over the Pacific Ocean, even the Bering Sea, to over Canada, and including parts of Washington and getting into Idaho and Montana. Now, what happens as this high pressure asserts itself over the Pacific Northwest, it pushes the jet stream further north. That action is going to set us up for sunshine and warming. And the three S's of high pressure, sunshine, stability, and subsidence, are what we're expecting through the next several days across Central Oregon. So when we look at the high resolution forecast model, we're going to look at some other forecast models, including a long-range one later. But this one, the high-resolution one, shows that some in and out clouds are going to be light tonight, and few sprinkles are even expected. Then going forward, by Wednesday, tons of sunshine during the midday and afternoon hours. After that, we mostly have sunshine through the rest of Thursday night, through Friday, through Saturday, through Sunday. Just some light clouds even possible across Central Oregon. And so when it comes to relative humidity, we're going to be tracking this very closely through the next several days, because by Thursday and Friday, my forecast has RH values relative humidity values measured in percentages getting very low. We're talking teens, potentially some single digits. That puts us near critical fire danger condition. We're not there yet. But when that happens, I think it's going to be closer to Thursday, Friday, Saturday that I'm expecting that. As of right now, still pretty moderate, little dry in some locations. Then in the last 24 hours, we've topped out in the 50s, 60s, and 71 degrees. I don't know if you remember yesterday, but my forecast had 60s with a few 50s and 70s expected. So right on target with that. Temperatures are sitting in the 60s with some 50s right now, and we're actually running between 1 degree cooler and 6 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago till you hit the Maury Mountains, 11 degrees warmer. So it actually looks like there's a slight temperature inversion where we're getting warmer with altitude or with height. At elevation. But at the moment, we have this high pressure building into the region. This high pressure is going to do a couple things. With the limited cloud cover tonight, it's going to get pretty chilly. Winds taper and come back down to a gentle breeze. And through the day tomorrow, we're warming into the mid to upper 60s with some 70s. Notice the average high temperature for today is 75. That's the Redmond one. The Bend one is, I think, 71, 72 degrees. So we're going to get close to average, just not quite there. And then even more warming is expected. Now, despite temperatures topping out in the 60s, our UV intensity forecast is cranking up to very high, especially through the midday and afternoon hours. During that peak solar energy is when we're looking at tons of sunshine. And so we're up at a 9. 8, 9, and 10, very high. During these times, you'll want to make sure you're using sunscreen if you're spending more than 2 hours outside. Maybe even an hour outside, depending on how your skin is. But either way, you're going to have to reapply every 2 hours. And so that is something that a lot of people just don't put together, don't correlate with each other. There is actually no correlation between temperature and UV intensity directly. Really, UV intensity is driven by the direct solar angles, the higher solar angles. So as we're getting closer to the summer solstice and shortly thereafter, that's where we have peak UV intensity because the sun's direct line is getting closer to us. And so we're going to be in this very high range through the rest of June, getting into July. Could even be seeing some extremes, just not happening here through the next 4 days. And going all the way through Saturday, it's going to stay very high. So just keep that in mind. Even though we're only topping out in the 60s with some 70s, you're going outside, you're spending a lot of time outside, use that sunscreen, do it. Okay, now going forward through the next couple of days, we're tracking a few other things. So we're going to look at a different forecast model just for a moment. We'll come back to the traditional one here in a little bit. But this one focuses on surface temperatures. Now, I've done a couple things, put some words on there. You have the banner that shows a couple more sentences to help define the forecast, but I also threw surface observations on there. Not observations, surface forecasts. And what it's going to show is where those fronts are. And so by Wednesday, there's still a warm front just offshore. Once that warm front moves its way through the Pacific Northwest, temperatures crank up into the 80s. So Wednesday, we're still looking at 60s and 70s. Now, I've been going back and forth with this one. I really think we're going to see more 70s than 60s across the map, but a lot of our forecast models have dialed it back here in the last 24 hours. Is it possible we're still looking at another round of 60s with just a few 70s? 100%. I just think we're going to get more sunshine. That warm front starts to roll through a little bit quicker, and I think we're going to see temperatures topping out with more 70s and 60s. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, by Thursday, we're through the 70s, reaching into the 80s. It's tons of sunshine, high pressure, and then by Friday, that high pressure really establishing itself, continuing to grow and develop even more. We're looking at highs well into the 80s with a light breeze. So between now and Friday at 11 p.m., not much of the way of precipitation overnight, maybe a few sprinkles in the highest elevations. But once this high pressure establishes itself as the dominant feature driving our weather pattern, it sticks around. And by then, we're actually going to be looking at what's referred to an omega high or a blocking high, because the way that this is defined is you have a low pressure for us, for the Pacific Northwest. There's a low pressure off to our east, a low pressure off to our west over the Gulf of Alaska, and a high pressure in between. So if you look really closely, the streamlines kind of make the shape of omega, the Greek letter. And so that's why we call it an omega high, and it forms a blocking high. And this is just setting up shop and high pressure stays with us to the tune of a big warming trend, taking those temperatures out of the 60s and 70s well into the 80s, and then to either side of 90 degrees by Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Now, by Monday and Tuesday, another weak system rolls through the Pacific Northwest. It does bring a dip in temperatures, which just don't go very far. So your forecast model actually shows that we are expecting some overnight clouds. Pardon me, this is what's lingering from that latest system, and partly to do with our warm front. Then by Wednesday, through the AM hours, we still have some of this cloud cover left over, some sprinkles in the highest elevations. After that, we clear out. High pressure sets up and stays with us through Thursday, through Friday, through Saturday, through Sunday. It's not till the beginning of next week that we even start to see hints of that next system, and it is not going to be a strong system. So by the time we're wrapping up this work week and going into the weekend, we're looking at significant warming, actually gaining 30 degrees within the course of this 7-day planner. 20 degrees of that is just in the next 3 days, the next 72 hours. So, but let's shift a little bit more. Look at the GFS. This is a long-range forecast model, and this guidance isn't as high resolution as the other stuff we've been using, but it still helps paint the picture, and it looks like very low chance of sprinkles. By Wednesday afternoon, sunshine. By Thursday, sunshine. By Friday, not much at all in the way of cloud cover, taking us all the way through this weekend. Tons of sunshine will be the main headline. On top of that, we have big heating expected. And so just remember, I've shown you four different forecast models, 3 of them showing rain and cloud cover. Each one is different. Each one uses different model physics, but all of them come together to help me do my forecast. And either way you look at it, yes, some clouds are expected. There's no precipitation in sight through this weekend and into next week. We have tons of sunshine. That sunshine continues through Monday. Then by Monday night going into Tuesday, some in and out clouds, a slight dip in temperatures. Still looking at 90s for many of us with some 80s. So between now and Friday at 11 p.m., nada. No rain in sight except for a few sprinkles through the Cascades and on the west slopes. Even with that, a lot of gaps in there. We're not looking at much. Some spots don't even get wet. Others just catch some sprinkles. Now, so far today, it has been breezy. It has been gusty. Current gusts are between 15 and 30 miles per hour across central Oregon. Actual wind speeds are more like 15 to 20 miles per hour, mostly coming out of the west, a little bit out of the northwest. And these winds start to taper off after sunset. And going past 9 to 10 and then 11 tonight, that's when we're getting back down into a light breeze. And then a gentle breeze is expected, but through most of the day, it's been breezy. And remember with this graphic, everything to the left of that white line, that now line that says 530, is observed. Everything to the right of it is forecast. We're just waiting on a few more of those observed wind speeds before we switch over to 5:45 p.m. That's the next update. But then by the time we get to Wednesday, a little breezy at times, not too bad. By Thursday, mostly just a light breeze. And by then, we are sitting under that sunshine across the high desert. So for tonight, expect 30s with a few 20s and 40s out there. By Wednesday, some AM clouds, definite PM sunshine, even midday sunshine is expected, with temperatures warming through the 60s and reaching into the 70s. The new travel forecast for Wednesday shows 60s with some 70s, even 80 degrees in Medford, but 62 in LeGrand and Florence, 60 in Lincoln City, 70 degrees in Bend and the Dalles. So parts of the high desert are going to get that ample warming. This is just another one of those transition days. Today was the transition day for clouds, precipitation, and wind speeds. Tomorrow, the warming trend really starts to take shape. Then that warm front rolls through the high desert, and it's like snapping your finger. We bounce right into the 80s, and then either side of 90 degrees by Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Still no rain in sight, a little breezy at times. So, quick look at your weather headlines for this Tuesday, June the 9th. Tons of sunshine on the way. That actually says plenty of sunshine, and it's just going to be dry. We're heating through the weekend with a rain-free forecast and a lighter breeze, and as of right now, the best chance of precipitation anywhere near us is a few sprinkles on the west slopes of the Cascades. That's right, we are drying out. It is a little breezy, and that is the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We're going to be on at 6 o'clock for an hour after the game on ABC, and then tonight at 11 on ABC and CBS. Quick reminder for everybody, the next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're going to be doing our evening lineup live from the Sisters Rodeo. That is definitely going to be fun. But that is it. Join us tonight. We'll see you later.